spit it out. Special delivery.
I want that.
Special delivery.
I need that.
Special delivery.
Can I have that?
Special delivery. Special delivery.
I want that.
Special delivery.
I need that.
Special delivery.
Can I have that?
Special delivery.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello, Baltimore, good evening. I am Will Hanna, your host of the Special Delivery, and I am joined by my very special co-host, the one, the only, the outsider, Mr. Sean Sims.
Often imitated, never duplicated. And I love being here, Will. Thanks for having me on as your co-host.
I promise to all our listeners on Baltimore City Voters, I promise y'all this will be one of those entertaining shows that y'all have seen in Baltimore, in a Baltimore podcast, TV, or radio show. That's what we plan to bring today. So, Sean, how was your weekend?
Man, staying busy. The wife and I had a Punta Cana, Dominican Republic vacation package. We've been back a few weeks from that. So trying to get back into the groove, if you know what I mean. So it's been a very interesting weekend and things are going well.
Well, we have a couple things I'm talking to the listeners now, not you, Sean. I want them to hear a poem that was written by Dr. Saprina Allison. So I want them to hear the poem. I don't know if I sent it to you. Did I send it to you, Desmond? Okay, I'm sending it to you. Anyway, I want y'all to hear the poem by Dr. Saprina Allison. And it was about the bridge, about the incident, the accident, terrible accident with the bridge. But she was inspired to write something about that. So we're gonna bring on Dr. Allison. And is she there? There she is. Dr. Allison.
How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good seeing you live and in person, and not at the fan reunion.
How about that? Like literally.
Literally, right? So before you recite the poem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before you recite the poem, tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind it.
Well, the inspiration behind it was exactly what you said. I woke up to the horrific news just like everybody else did. And before I could even see what the issue was, when I just saw on the ticker tape going across the news, Baltimore, breaking news, Baltimore. And honestly, the first thing I thought was something was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, wait, let me sit up a little bit so you can see my Baltimore Strong sweatshirt. I don't know if everybody see my sweatshirt. But I woke up to that news, and of course, not living in Baltimore anymore does not mean that I'm not connected to Baltimore. Baltimore, born and raised through and through all of my life. And it just did not feel good to me. And the more phone calls I got from other people that have moved away from the area to see if I had seen the news, as well as just calling home to check on family and make sure that everybody was okay. Because at that time, we didn't know who was where or who could have been affected at that time. It was just a really heavy day. And I know that a lot of times we don't hear the goodness that comes out of Baltimore, but what I do know is Baltimore understands Baltimore.
Right. Absolutely.
And we can love on each other in a different way that nobody else can. So when I came home from work that day, I actually was working on another project. And it was my vice mayor, Lisa Lucas Burke, who sends her regards, her condolences from Portsmouth, Virginia to the Baltimore family. And that meant so much to me that as a leader in the city, she thought enough of me to say, hey, how you doing? How are you really doing? Before we talk about anything else, how are you doing? How is your family? And that just meant so much to me. And writing is a feel good for me. So that's how I got through that day. It just helped me feel good.
So we're gonna put the spotlight on you right now, and we want to actually hear you recite the poem. Now we're going to play it because you also did a recording for us. But you told me, you said nothing like the real thing, right? Nothing like the real thing. So we want to get it from you. And if you're ready, we
I am. I'm actually going to be reading it, even though every time you write something, you don't know it right away. So I actually will be reading the poem, but it's called Baltimore Will Rise. And it says, from the ashes of calamity, we will rise again and stand, rebuilding each missing piece of you, beam by beam, hand in hand, telling grand old stories of a bridge named Key, how you once stood along the Patapsco River, overlooking this great city. Just like the skyline at night, welcome those traveling by land and air. All traveling by sea knew you were there. Some will only have memories of this unfortunate tragedy, while others will celebrate your beauty and your majesty. Although the days ahead will be rough and long, battle tested and ready. I'm sorry, my computer went out. Oh, I'm sorry. Battle tested and ready. We are Maryland tough and Baltimore strong.
Absolutely. Now we got it queued up, so we want to play it and show the video as we redid it. So I want our listeners to take about, it's gonna take about a minute and a half. So let's just go through it.
Baltimore will rise. From the ashes of calamity, we will rise again and stand, rebuilding each piece of you missing, beam by beam, hand in hand, telling grand old stories of a bridge named Key, how you once stood along the Patapsco River, overlooking this great city. Just like the lit skyline at night, welcome those traveling by air and land. Those traveling by sea knew you were there. Some will only have memories of this unfortunate tragedy, while others will celebrate your beauty and majesty. Although the days ahead will be rough and long, battle tested and ready, we are Maryland tough and Baltimore strong.
Beautiful. Thank you. Know what? Thank you so much, Dr. Allison. And from the citizens of your hometown, even though you're down in Portsmouth, Virginia, from the citizens of your town, I thank you. We thank you for your input and just provide, if it may even provide relief to even one of the families, it's a mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you. And thank you for joining us on the special delivery. We definitely got to have you back so we can talk about some Baltimore stuff, some 21215 stuff with you.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Thank you, Dr. Allison.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So, Sean.
Yes.
What do you think of the poem?
Well, I thought it was actually poignant. It was moving. And of course, being born and raised in Baltimore City, my dad was actually born on the day that the Star Spangled Banner was written. Not the year, but the day, September the 14th. So what happened with that bridge being collapsed the way it was a tragedy. But like she said, Dr. Allison said, Maryland strong, Baltimore strong, and we'll get through this.
Absolutely. So this is Baltimore City Voters. And we want to kind of drive, as we've done over the past couple of weeks, and those that have caught the show the last couple of weeks, we have some very exciting guests that came on, very interesting. Those that are involved in campaigns right now, and we've also talked with some elected officials as well. So I think that now we have an opportunity that what you're going to hear later in the show, we're actually going to go through each district. And we're going to kind of give our analysis on each district's race. What do you think about that, Sean?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Let's get it on. Let's get cracking.
Do we have a guest in the room? Okay, I think we got a hard break at 7:20, so we got 10 minutes. We got a hard break at 7:20. So let's set the stage for what the voters are going to hear. What the listeners on Baltimore City Voters are going to hear this evening. So it's going to be, we're going to go through District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, District 5, District 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got the right amount of fingers up. 11, 12, 14.
Yep.
There we go. So we're going to go through each district, and then we're going to lay out what we think. Just what we think. So before we go into our first break, you want to start with districts? Start at 1. You want to start with District 1?
One's good. Let's go with 1. We're talking about Zeke Cohen. He's presently there. So Zeke's running for Baltimore City Council. So he's not going to be
council
on
president.
the list. So there will be a new person in District 1. So folks, it looks like you're picking from Liam Davis, Joseph Raymond, Kosher. These are the Democrats. And I got my little list here. I did a little homework.
Uh-oh.
And Mark Parker. So those are your 3
Those are the names in District 1. We're talking about District 1, City Council.
District 1.
Who are those? Name the candidates again so our voters can hear.
Liam Davis,
1.
Joseph Raymond, Kohler, and Mark Parker.
Okay.
Democrat. All Democrats. So that's District
No
1.
Republicans running in the 1st district.
Won't have any.
Okay. So I think I'll say for me, the only name that's familiar to me is Liam Davis. But I think the voters are going to have an interesting choice because there sounds like there are some political newcomers that are running in District 1.
Well, I did a little quick search on Liam. It looks like he's spent some time in the city council for about 5 years or so. So I don't know. I have an issue with people coming for the city. I want fresh ideas. But if Liam's the best guy, then so be it. But vet all the candidates. And if we're talking about, let's go to the second. If you want to go to the second district.
Well, I want to make a point. So that's exactly what this show is about. This show is about, let's inform the voters. Let's let them see what all their choices are and all their options are and open up the floodgates a little bit. So yeah, let's go to District 2.
District 2 is Danielle McCrae. I don't know if she's done anything. Perfectly blunt. I haven't heard anything, seriously, nothing. She's the incumbent, and she's running against India Carter, and India Carter is a Democrat. Andy Zippe looks like he's a Republican in that race, so he's the only one. So that's what it's going to come down to.
Well, that's in Northeast Baltimore. So in Northeast Baltimore, that's actually also the seat that the current mayor held when he was on the city council. Is that district? That district it can go either way because it's got some challenges, but it also has a huge homeowner population. So you look at all of those things. So look at Danny McCrae, who we know is the sister of Senator Cory McCrae. Danny McCrae. If I had to go on name recognition in that district, and I don't live in the district, so I may not know India Carter, but I don't live in the district. But if I had to go on name recognition for who I could recognize, I hear McCrae.
Well, I recognize the name, and I know Cory. I mean, Cory and I are cool. He's been on the show, but I don't know if Danielle's done anything. I've just got to be perfectly blunt. She should get that out there if she has.
But you know what I'm going to do, Sean? I'm going to send a request for Danielle McCrae to come on the show. And matter of fact, we already did. We're just confirming the date. That's all. So she will be on special delivery. We'll get Danielle McCrae on. Let's go to District 3.
District 3, we have Margot Bruner Settles, Democrat. Marcus Dent, Democrat. And the incumbent, Ryan Dorsey, Mr. Bike Guy. Hey, didn't he get in a fight trying to take a bike into Lexington Market?
Well, you talking about this?
There we go. Mm-hmm.
See, I think my super producer's having fun with this.
There we go.
With this right now. So we're talking about District 3. Let's name the candidates again.
District 3, Margot Bruner Settles, Marcus Dent, and Ryan, I want to take my bike into Lexington Market, even though I can't, Dorsey. Those are your candidates.
So when we look at that district, and that's the other side of Northeast Baltimore, so you're looking at like the Lock Raven area. Are we over there? We're in like the Lock Raven area, going down to Walther, all down around there, Cold Spring Lane, that part. All around there. That on the East Cold Spring Lane. I don't want people to get it confused. East Cold Spring Lane in that area. Dorsey,
Right.
I will say, go ahead, John.
I'm just saying, Ryan Dorsey needs to go. I mean, goodbye, bye. And as we go through, I'm just going to be naming the candidates because, as far as I'm concerned, most of them need to go. We need a fresh new Baltimore City Council.
We're not going to be like we're not going to be like Fox News and be fair and balanced.
No, I'm going to be a straight shooter.
Okay, so here we.
I mean, I'm just going to call it straight.
One thing that has happened is Ryan Dorsey has outlived what we thought would kill him. It's like having that. I ain't gonna call him a roast because then I'm gonna say I said something about calling him a name, and I'm not gonna do that. I don't even know Ryan Dorsey like that. But what I'm saying is, he has weathered a political storm that many wouldn't, because he's still in office.
I don't know. I don't get it.
But I have heard a lot about this Bruner Settles. That name continues to pop up. Continue to hear it. You see the signs around, starting to see it. So if I had to think about it, I don't think it's going to be such as easy as a race as it may have been in the past with Councilman Dorsey. I think Ms. Bruner Settles going to get run for the money.
Well, I hope she does. Okay, and I always say vet the candidates. Look them up, vet them. Just don't see a name and just pick. I guess we're going to go to District 4 now.
Let's go to District 4.
Okay. District 4, we have one person. Oh, boy. Mark Conway. He's the incumbent. No one else is running. So, next.
Unopposed. the people. So, what district we talking about? 4, right? We're still talking about
4.
Northeast Baltimore, right? We're still talking about Northeast Baltimore. Just further as you get closer to Charles Street, coming over and into that way, heading west, coming towards Park Heights.
And that's disappointing that he gets a freebie. I mean, it's a free ride. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. You should challenge people who are incumbents.
But Sean, I think maybe if nobody ran, maybe his district may feel like he's doing a great job.
Well, we'll see. I don't. Matt, you want to go to 5?
Are we going? Hold on. I think we're gonna come back to 5.
Coming on the break.
We come back to 5 on the other side because we have a guest in the waiting room. So I want to make sure that we're very respectful of her time. We have. She's not there. Okay, well let's go to 5.
Okay, District 5. We have.
We do have coming on. Let me say this real quick and make this announcement. Okay. We do have a mayoral candidate coming on, Republican mayoral candidate Pastor Shannon Wright, who will be joining us this evening as well. So once she comes into the green room, and then we're going to bring her on. But right now we're going to District 5.
Okay, District 5, Marvin M. Briscoe. He's a Democrat, and you have Isaac Yitzi Schleifer. He's the incumbent. He's a Democrat. Yitzi, I mean, he does good things, and sometimes he gets on my nerves. So, I mean, I'm going to give, seriously, but I'm going to give him, I'll give him a pass on that because, I mean, he can do some good, but sometimes, but he's against the bike thing where you just put bike lanes wherever you want to put them. I believe he believes that the neighborhood should be able to have input and they should have control of whether there are bike lanes or not. I like that.
Well, I think that's a lean for a lot of people. If you're against bike lanes, it's a hot issue in Baltimore. So it really where you sit on the bike lane issue could determine whether you win or lose a race in the city right now.
He's got signs everywhere. I live in Pikesville, and right outside of the city, his signs everywhere, orange and black. and he's gonna win in a walk. I'll go out on a limb on that one. And that's it for 5. Okay. He's gonna win in a walk.
You said that's it for 5. We're not even going to talk about Mr. Briscoe. No, we got to do it. So I remember
you should vet him. Vet this guy. Vet him. You know, make sure you look at each candidate. I always stress that. Right? He's going to get claimed.
Well, what I'm going to say, what I do know about Briscoe is that I think I want to say that he was in the running for the delegate seat in the 41st district. And that was the first I had ever heard of him. Of course, you know, the 5th and 6th district covers my beloved Park Heights. So I want to be full disclosure that I'm going to be also somewhat unbiased in some of these things. But like you said, some of these races could be a walk.
This is one of them. Let's go to 6. Robin Christian. She's a Democrat, District 6. She's running against the incumbent, Sharon. I've been here way too long. Green Middleton. Sharon's time to retire. But she's the incumbent, and I know you know her.
Do I? She's vaguely familiar.
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah.
and I think there's one other person in that race. Stephen T. Johnson, and he's all over the place. I mean, he's all over the place. I had a meeting with him earlier in the week. He was at a meeting. So vet him, vet all the candidates, and a Republican, Rondé Wilson, on a Republican ticket. There is a Republican in the 6th district.
For District 6. Yep. Rondé Wilson.
Amazing. Now, I'm going to somewhat try to abstain. I mean, let me say this because I know this district very well. It's also where I live. So I'm gonna say this. And I know probably all of the candidates, maybe except for Miss Christian. I know her, but I don't know her. But I'm very fond of Steve, and I've known Sharon for over 20 years. Councilwoman Middleton. I've known her for over 20 years. So I would say this: there are a lot of things that are happening in that district, in District 6, particularly in the heart of the district, right in Park Heights. A lot of development projects, a lot of things that are right in midstream. And I would only say, as a resident of the district, that there are some things we need to finish. There's some things we need to finish. And I think Sharon may be at the end of her career, but I think there are some things we need to finish. And I would respectfully, and you know, it's no secret that I publicly endorse Sharon Middleton, so I want to make sure that I'm transparent in that. But I think it's going to be a good race. I think it's going to be a good race.
I think it's a good race, but like I keep saying, always say, look at every candidate. Don't go with what I'm saying. Hey, it's a wash. Still, look at and vet
absolutely
the candidate and vote for the best person. I guess we're on Councilman District 7. I guess we're gonna go with 7. District 7, we have 3 folks. We have Tory Rose.
Before we go, I guess we're going to hold District 7 over to the other side.
Okay, let's go.
We'll hold District 7 over to the other side because I want to bring up our amazing guest. I've known her for some time. She has always been very, very gracious, very eloquent. You've probably seen her several times on Fox 45 and several other news outlets. So I just want to introduce the one, the only, Pastor Shannon Wright. Can we hear you?
Yeah, on mute. Pastor Wright has it on mute.
Oh, you're muted.
You got to hit unmute. There we go.
Going to be having some technical difficulties.
There you go. So, good evening, Pastor Wright. Welcome to the special delivery. And so you are a candidate for mayor.
I am.
And we want to let our listeners know, because we like to make this show informational as well as fun, but we will make it informational. So I like to invite candidates on that other outlets may not. And so I want to give every candidate a fair opportunity to say, you know what, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm running, and this is why you should support me. And my questions will go probably almost exactly in that order. And Sean, you can kind of we'll at the end of letting you introduce yourself, pass the right to our guests. I know that many people on Baltimore City Voters already know who you are, but they're new to the special delivery, and you are too. So glad to have you here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
start
So,
firing away questions. Go for it.
yes, ma'am. I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about those that may not know who is Shannon Wright.
Okay. Well, I live here in Baltimore. I love the city. And I can see that there are things that should be going in a different direction. I understand policy. I understand how to make some of the changes that need to be made, and I'm willing to put in the hard work to do it. I don't I know we need better schools. I know we need to lower our crime rates. I know we need to lift our quality of life rates. I know that we need to grow our economic engine. These things aren't a question, these things are facts. And the leadership that we've had for the last several administrations don't seem to be able to wrap their heads around those facts and be able to actually make it do what it needs to do.
Well, I will say this, and Sean, if you have any questions, we can kind of tag team. But one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is that you have always been a straight shooter. And people may say, don't let. I always tell people, I said, don't let her voice fool you. I said she can be a pit bull. And I'm glad to know you, and I'm glad to have you as a friend. So I want you to tell the voters why you decided to run for the mayor of Baltimore City.
So I was raised to believe that if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. Again, I know how to make it do what it needs to do. So instead of sitting around and yelling at the TV when the news comes on, I want to be a part of the solution. If we were to get into it, we need a mayor that can multitask and multi-track. We need somebody that understands that even though there's a board of education with a superintendent, with the ability to levy 20% of that budget comes the ability to have a bit of a bully pulpit and force them to do things that need to be done for these children to make sure they're getting a quality education. We need a mayor that is old enough to, and I know some of your listeners are going to get mad at me, but are old enough to have had children or at least raised a pet and understand how to discipline and how to hold folks accountable, and that young folk need to be held accountable. So we need to make sure of that. We need folks that understand that as leaders, it is not our job to stand there and ask Annapolis or DC, please, sir, may I have some more? It's our job to make sure that our business is handled in a way that grows our economic engine. When you do that, your city population doesn't shrink, it grows. Your tax base grows. Your ability to do the things to make the quality of life better for your citizens grows. We haven't seen that because these folks don't know how to do that. But if elected, I will show them the way.
Sean, you have a question? You look like you got a question.
Yes, actually I do, because my grandfather was a pastor and I grew up in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing and I'm going to focus on the school system. I mean, you have a spiritual situation where you have kids just running amok, stealing cars. And if you can't read, if you can't read, and statistics show, if you can't read, you're not proficient at math and writing, there's a pipeline to crime. And it's a spiritual issue as well. And as a pastor, you're looking at it others aren't looking at it in that position as a pastor. And what I'm going to ask you is this: with the school system, what are you going to do if you were to become mayor? What would you do with that school system regarding top person, the CEO, should be called superintendent, but the CEO, Dr. Santelises, and how would you improve that school system so we get a reduction in crime because we have kids who can read and write and are proficient in math?
So I think the first thing we have to understand is contract or not, it's based on performance. So if you're not performing as superintendent, I may not be able to fire you as mayor, But the mayor appoints the Board of Education members, and I would let them know that I will make it my business to stay in office until each and every one of them is out of office so that we can run this school system in the manner that we need to run it.
Great. Fantastic.
It's a proven fact. Proficiency tests let people know how many jail cells they need to build and by what time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not educating our children, we're just saying we might as well incarcerate our children. That's the way that goes. Now, from a pastoral standpoint, the Bible says train a child in the way they should go. Well, there's a couple of different lines of defense. If that's not happening at home, it used to be that the neighborhood, the community would kind of step in. And then what beyond that was the school. Well, now, with the way the laws are that you can't discipline a child and a child can run amok, and we have, instead of teaching the children we actually have in school, we're creating ghost children so that we can, get the money from the state. We have all kinds of failures and breakdowns on all levels. So we end up seeing more of our youth trapped in the judicial system. You can't legislate what happens at home, but what you can do as mayor, you can create a community school model so that you may not be able to dictate to the superintendent, but you create that community school model so that you have wraparound programs. You may have generations of a family that can't read. So you open up some of those classes to the students and the parents and the grandparents.
Right.
You make it so that you have meals that are offered in the evening because that may be the best nutritious meal the family gets. You do things that look at the family where it is, not where you want them to be, but where it is, and what are the steps necessary to get them where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we have not had that. We've had mayors that have thrown out that quote holistic word.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I'm gonna say this:
Here it go.
for a city that considers itself to be woke, this is the sleepingest woke city I have ever seen.
You're right. Correct.
And what I mean
I
by
agree.
that is this: we have allowed ourselves to be dumbed down and
That
desensitized
going
to think
viral.
that
I
things
see
that
that
are
going
not good
viral, Pastor
are
Wright.
good.
I'm sorry, Pastor Wright. I see that going viral right now. But go ahead, continue. I just had to interject for a second.
We have to understand that those of us that are of age to know better are part of the problem. Whether
Mhm.
you out there on the corners or not, you're part of the problem. We seem to have lost the understanding, the comprehension of the phrase Black excellence. We have gone from Black excellence to Black mediocrity to Black whatever.
I think she's muted out.
Mm-hmm. You have to let her know to hit the mute. Hit the unmute it. You have to unmute.
Pastor Wright, you're muted. There she go. I thought I heard her.
Where most
There we
folks
go.
that go to vote don't
We're
know
back.
who's on the ballot and what they stand for, where they are on taxes, where they are on education, where they are on economic development. And then you vote for these folks not knowing what they stand for. You can't get mad. You put them there. We have to do our homework. We have to be accountable for who we vote for and why. That's number one. Number two, the folks that you do vote for, you have to make sure that one, they've read the city charter. In the last election cycle, our current mayor said more stuff that he was going to do than a little bit that should have landed his butt in prison. When you campaign to do things for people that are illegal for you to do and you still vote for that person, you get what you got. Now, I'm not saying you have to read the charter from front to back, but somebody needs to make sure that those that are running for office have. We have folks that are actually walking around the streets of this city now talking about things that they're going to do that are illegal. Illegal. Now, when you want to talk about you want to be in city leadership and you want to lower crime and you want to go around here doing this illegal stuff, how does that work? We need a shift in mindset in this city. Now, here's another place where you folks are going to get mad at me. And I'm not judging it. I'm telling you why I can say this at the end. Sheila Dixon, I love some of the things that she did and how she had some of the things going in the city correctly. However, that fall from grace. There's redemption. I get that. But that's one. Marilyn Mosby. I don't know. Remember, I've lost count of how many police commissioners, state delegates, state senators. Look, we cannot have leadership calling themselves leaders and saying we need to lower crime, we need to hold ourselves accountable, we need to hold our city accountable when they're not being held accountable. Now,
Exactly.
when it comes to Sheila Dixon, because people gonna say I'm judging, I'm not judging, but I'll be doggone. You wouldn't put a pedophile in charge of a daycare, would you? You're gonna forgive them, but you won't forget. The Bible says forgive, not forget. The Bible says judge not lest you be judged. I'm not judging you. I ain't mad at you. Everybody's done some things in their life. You don't get to a certain age without having some baggage.
Mhm.
But your baggage is in the wrong direction for this city. Anybody that's been here that calls themselves a son of the city, born and raised in this city, had every job at City Hall but dog catcher, and still can't seem to govern, it's time to go. It's plain and simple.
So let me ask you this. That's right. What would be your first thing you would change day one in the right administration? What is the day one thing you would change?
Day one, I am sending a request and an invitation for every agency head to submit their resignation. And in the
Oh,
package with their resignation, submit their resume and why they should be rehired and employed by the city.
I
Every
like.
agency across the board. That's day one.
Mm-hmm.
Day two, I'm going to request to sit down with the superintendent of schools and ask her why I should not make it my mission to remove every board member that is supporting her so that these children actually have an opportunity to learn and have a future. That's
Hmm.
day two.
You got the first week mapped out?
We don't have time to waste. This city is on fire. We do not have time to waste. We need someone that can come in day one and understand how to hold folks accountable. Some folks may say, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. I'm grown and free. Why can't I? If I'm elected to be mayor in the city, it's my job to make sure everyone is doing their job. Period.
Yes.
I'm of a mindset. I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission. So I'm going to do what I know is necessary to get this city on the right track from day one.
I can't argue with you.
Can't argue with that.
And for me, I know a lot of folks hold it against me that I'm a Republican. Everybody's got to be something. Okay. I went with a historical perspective of where my folks had the most power and had the most recognition and authority. Historical perspective. But I will tell you this. For those of you that are wrapped up in the R by my name, you need to figure out what's by your name or who said you repping when you repping people that don't mean you no good.
Mm.
Just because you look like me don't mean you got my best interest at heart. And until we recognize that, we are going to continue to have the problems we have. Now, the R behind my name shouldn't bother you. What should bother you is the folks with the D behind their name not bringing in options to fix schools, not bringing in juvenile justice that's actually beneficial to the juveniles as well as the community, not creating an economic engine to grow the city. We're talking about downtown now. We're talking about this new development plan. Now,
I was going to ask you about that, the new harbor plan for Harbor Place.
how that supposed to work? Now, the people that can afford to live down there in those high-rise buildings are not going to want to live down there unless they've got some armored vehicles to be able to get in and out. What are we talking about? We have to fix our house. We have to clean it. We have to fix it before we can expect other. What'd your mother say when you were growing up? You got to clean your room before you can have company, right?
Mm.
You got to clean your room before you try to have people over because I'm not going to have you embarrassing me up in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing? Let's
Not,
get this going the
okay.
right way first. Let's invest in some of the communities that have been disinvested in first. Let's do some things that actually make sense. Let's stop all the show pony stuff. Let's get into the real issues and fix some things. We're putting our emphasis on the wrong issues here in Baltimore City. We're putting our issues on what things look like, who's got a R, who's got a D, who's got this and who's got that. But I'm gonna tell y'all all this. Y'all need to be less concerned about what's on my voter card and more concerned about what you're voting for. Because true power comes from a seat at all the tables. And if you can't get one, build your own table. Stop settling for what everybody else tells you you should be thinking. That's how this city got in that mess. If I have to hear a quote leader say one more time, well, this is a national epidemic. I don't live in the national. I live in the city of Baltimore. I want to know what your plan is for Baltimore. I don't care if Chicago has the same issue. Then fine, let us be the example on how to fix it instead of joining the rest of the folk in the same mess. I need a leader that can get us up out of the mess, not explain why we in it. I don't give a damn why we in it. How we getting out? That's what we need. Leadership that's focusing on solutions and not problems. I don't care what the problem is. Let's look at it, let's analyze it, let's come up with a solution, and let's move us ahead. That I have not seen in the city in a minute.
Well, let me say this, because I can imagine that this video is going to be played over and over and over and over again, because you hit on some things that a lot of people are afraid to say. And let me just say it very candidly. There are things that you say, and I've heard you say over the years, that a lot of people dare not say in this city. That's almost taboo to say in this city. And you clearly say it, but you say it in a way that's so eloquent that you know how people say, people can say something in such an eloquent way that it makes you feel stupid, that it makes you feel like you're less informed now. I feel like I feel more informed now than I did before you got on. And I'm going to say one thing about the D and the R. When I was saying everything about you, and as you were laying out the things that you were saying, nobody knew whether you were a Democrat or a Republican until you said it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
No.
You asked about the spiritual side of things.
Yes, ma'am.
I did. Mm-hmm.
In 2009, was it? 2012, the Democratic National Convention when Obama was running. I am of that 2009. I'm of that mindset. I'm not going to read the cliff notes. I'm going to watch the Democrat convention and the Republican convention, because I don't want to take someone else's opinion of what they think and how they're interpreting what's being said. I'm going to hear it for myself. When I heard the group of folks that were there that had to take a vote 3 times to keep the word God in their platform, if my God can't be there, that's not the place for me. That's number one. And a lot of folks get mad when you say that, but for me, that's true. We have leadership in this city, or folks that call themselves leaders, that just don't seem to understand how that's supposed to look. We have to get it right. The children in this city cannot wait. What will happen is, if we vote wrong and we get the wrong leaders in place this time, you won't have to worry about juvenile justice, because that's where all of them are going to be. You won't have to worry about the schools, because they're all going to be ghost students anyway.
Absolutely.
If we want to be a city that actually can hold its head high, understanding how long this city was in existence, the potential of this city, where the city came from, then we need leadership that respects this city. I said something about the new slave master looking like us. Well, last time I checked, a lot of the folks that are leading this city look like us, but they don't act like they about us. One example of that, I'm just getting myself in trouble all day today, so I'm just keep going.
Might as well.
One example of that.
We got a minute left on this segment, so I want you to close.
I'll make it real quick then.
Yep.
Minimum wage. Everybody's talking about minimum wage. Everybody's pushing minimum wage. Everybody's talking about bringing minimum wage into the city. As mayor, I will not. And I'm going to tell you why. I raised 4 children. I sewed into those children for years. And I'd be doggone if I did that for them to look for anybody's minimum nothing. We have to bring back Black excellence. That's what we go for. When you bring back Black excellence, you don't have to worry about anybody's bottom nothing, because you ain't nowhere near there. Black excellence gets rid of minimum wage. And I'm going to leave it there.
So I gotta, this ain't the first time you left me speechless on the microphone. So I'm gonna tell you right now, like, it is such an honor and a pleasure to have you get an opportunity to speak and to make some very eloquent points that you make. So I really appreciate you and thank you. And I definitely gotta have you come back on. Gotta
I would
have you
love
come
to.
back on. Absolutely. For our listeners, this is Pastor Shannon Wright, candidate for mayor for Baltimore City. And if you had never heard of her, you will you play this video over and over again for your friends too. Thank you, Pastor Wright.
Thank you, Pastor Wright. That was something else.
Let me tell you something. Let me say this.
Really?
let me say this though, right? I think over the past few weeks, I think we're right now what we're doing though, Sean, is we're setting a mantra for what this show is and what it should be. That is what Pastor Wright exemplifies exactly what I wanted this show to be. Very direct, very blunt, very straightforward, and say the things that you're not going to normally hear somewhere else. This is where we want them to hear it, right here on Special Delivery on Baltimore City Voters.
Well, you got off to a good start.
Absolutely. So Sharon, we're going to go back because when I get home, I'm going to listen to this over and over again because I want to hear Pastor Wright again. But we're going to go back to, I think we on District 7.
7. Yeah.
So we're talking. For those that just joined us, we started out the show. We were doing our analysis of each district, what we thought, our analysis, who's who, and then letting the voters know who's actually running in your district, and then where you can find information on them as well, and where to do your homework.
Well, we have District 7 candidates. Tory Rose, who's a Democratic candidate. Vet her, look her up. I think she's a very good candidate for the office. James Torrance, who's the incumbent, my personal opinion and professional opinion, for my show, The Outsiders, we call them Pigpen, because District 7 is the dirtiest district in the dirtiest city in America. So that's hence the name Pigpen. So he's the incumbent, and we have Christopher Michael Anderson. Christopher Anderson is actually Republican. So he's the only other Republican in it. So Tory Rose, folks, I give her thumbs up. But you vet every candidate. That's what I always say.
Well, let me say this, and I'll say this in full disclosure. I work very closely with Tory Rose. I've known her for years. And work closely with the campaign. So while I'm not going to give my opinion on the vote, I am going to talk about the personalities that we're looking at here in James Torrance and Tory Rose. And James Torrance, I see where there were some opportunities that could have been done, some things that could have been done, some things that were promised to be done and to be in the last election in 2020. Now, this is a kind of a rematch where you had with Tory Rose, who came in second in that race in 2020, and James Torrance, who is now the incumbent. But now, when I look at the hand-to-hand and look at them, if I just looked at them as personalities, as persons, people will say, well, Torrance, he's a lawyer, he's done this and all that. And you'll see Tory Rose, who is not a newcomer to politics. She's very deliberate. And what I've seen in her, she's very qualifications, I think she's very qualified. So I think I join you in saying, even in my bias, let me say that, let me be clear, in my bias, I also have to go with Tory Rose in the 7th district.
Okay, so there we go there. District 8, Bilal Ali. I used to see this guy's name up here, the green signs, Bilal Ali. Met him once briefly. We have also, he's Democrat, Christian B. Allen, Democrat, and Jeffrey David Allen. What are they related? I don't know if they're related or not, but you have the Allen people in District 8 and Bilal Ali.
Is that all that's running in District 8?
Well, I think there's some others too. Whoa, here we go.
You got this. It's some
Paris Gray, Democrat, and Joyce D. Jones, Democrat. So it looks like you've got 5 Democrats going at it. So will be the top person in District 8.
And now in this district, for those that may or may not understand, this is in mostly West Baltimore, but maybe like Northwest. It's the other side of the 5th District. So you're looking at everything on the other side of the 5th District, going west and then going south. If I can map it out correctly.
And the incumbent Christopher Burnett, who, woohoo, he's gone. Yes, Mr. They, we, he, she, they. Oh my goodness, he's gone. So we'll have somebody fresh in. Thank goodness.
And in that district also includes so that the voters are so the people on the page are familiar and the listeners are familiar. That includes the areas around Emerson Village. So if you go Emerson Village and you go west of Emerson Village, all those neighborhoods are up around there, and then further north and northwest. That is the 8th district, I believe. Is Howard Park in the 8th? Yeah, I believe parts of Howard Park is in the 8th district. You have parts of part of Windsor Hills that's in the 8th district, and then you go around that way. So it'll be an interesting race. Out of that, I think out of those, I think I probably have met 3 of them. I think Paris, I think he worked in Burnett's office or he worked in politics somewhere. But I think he's been endorsed by Burnett.
Yeah, well, that's not actually a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I mean, I'm just saying, the way he, she, they, the pronouns. It's the pronoun guy who pushed that.
Let's go to District 9.
District 9. Let's go to District
5 minutes.
Okay, incumbent John T. Bullock. I don't know what he's done. Sonia G. Edie is a Democrat. She's running against John Bullock as well. And it looks like we have Matthew Johnson and Benroy July, Democrats for District 9.
That's an interesting race. And the reason I say that's an interesting race is because you have Sonia Edie, who's very well known in the community. And you have John Bullock, who a lot of people feel like shouldn't be there. And I've known Doc for a minute. I call him Doc, but Councilman Bullock for a little while. But there are a lot of people that aren't displeased, that aren't pleased with his work on the council. But Sonia she's very popular in the district. But then you also have Benroy July, who is very popular in the district as well. So it's going to be a very interesting race. I'm not familiar with Matthew Johnson, but I know that Sonia Edie and Benroy July are very active in the community as well. So I think that's going to be a very interesting race with Councilman Bullock.
Oh, okay. Next is District 10, Richard Parker, Democrat. Let's see, who else we have here? Oh, now here, this one, Felicia Porter, she's a Democrat. Felicia Porter did not vote for Richard Worley. Everyone else did. That's why, I don't mind seeing them go. But Felicia Porter held her ground. That Brooklyn Day shooting, that massacre, that's her district. She held her ground, and I think she did a good job handling that after the fact as well. And I would give her a thumbs up as the incumbent. She's one of the few I would.
Well, we had we actually had Councilwoman Porter on here on our first show. She was the very first guest on this show, and I think a lot of people after seeing and hearing her, if they had not seen her and met her before, if they want to go back and look into the first episode of the special delivery. If you don't know who Councilwoman Felicia Porter is, and I know Richard Park. I've known Richard for a number of years, but Felicia Porter is she's dynamic. She's a rock star, and it'd be a tough hill to climb for anyone else running in that district.
Yeah, she's going to get that. Only thing, Felicia, you got to return your calls and your emails. That's it. You got to return your call. I talked to her about it. You got to return your calls and emails. But other than that, we're good. Let's go to District 11.
Let's go to 11.
Zach Blanchard, he's a Democrat. The incumbent Eric Costello, Kim Klacik calls him No Chin. So No Chin Eric Costello, incumbent Zach Blanchard, and those are the only two. So that's what you have to choose from in 11. And looks like Eric will be Little Lord Fauntleroy will be back. That's my prediction.
So Zach Blanchard and Eric Costello, I don't know.
Blanchard.
I don't know Mr. Blanchard. Not familiar. Not that he's not active in working in his community, in this district. I just personally don't know him. Known Councilman Costello for a long time, of course. And for the people that live in the 11th district, so you have part of that district is Pennsylvania Avenue. Another part of that district goes all the way over to Central. Was it Charles Village? I think 11 goes Charles Village. So you see the different dynamics in the in how different the district is when it goes from Pennsylvania Avenue to Charles Village, and all of that area around central, around the center of the city. It's a very important district. It's a very different district. So, but I really don't know if Councilman Costello has any huge opposition there. So I would give him.
Yeah. Let's go with District 12. District 12 has Jermaine Jones. Jermaine Jones, let me make sure. And again, I keep prefacing this. I have to keep saying, always vet your candidates. Always vet them. Robert Stokes Sr. is the incumbent, and William Buddy
Carl Stokes. Not to be confused with Carl Stokes. I know a lot of people.
Completely different people. Trust me.
Well, when people see signs, they just see Stokes. They don't know. A lot of people are so used to voting for Carl in that area that they don't know. So I make sure that we understand that we're talking about Robert Stokes, who is the incumbent and who's been on the city council for, I think, at least a couple terms.
Yes, he has. And William Buddy Houston actually was in it, but he was disqualified status. So scratch that. Scratch Buddy Houston, he's out. You got Jermaine Jones and Robert Stokes Sr., the incumbent.
So that's a head-up race?
Yep.
There's nobody else in that race?
Nope.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. The reason why I say that's tough, because if you look at the numbers in that district, it's a low voting district. We're very different from Northwest Baltimore. That's a very low voting district. And I believe it was either 12 or 13 when someone won in that district with like 1,100 votes.
Well, Jermaine Jones better run a really good campaign to take out Robert Stokes, but he also voted for Richard Worley. So
I think a lot of people in that district know Jermaine Jones. He's also a union guy. So
you better push that. Let's see how he does. I mean, this might be interesting.
That's going to be a very interesting race in District 12. Let's go to District 13.
District 13, we have Walker Gladden, the third. Well, he's like Thurston Howell the third. But yeah, Walker Gladden the third, Democrat, in District 13. And we have, oh boy, the incumbent Antonio Tony Glover is the incumbent. What has he done? I don't know. And we have a Republican. Alexander Artis is a Republican. He's unopposed. So between Tony and Walker, they're going to go at it for 13. So we'll see how that happens. That
could also be a very interesting race, and it could be an upset race because it has traditionally been one of the lower voting districts in the city, and really whoever does the most work over there is going to win. Whoever does the most work in their campaign in that district is going to win.
Well, Antonio, he voted for who, Richard Worley. So I hope Walker, you run a good campaign and kick his butt out. Okay, now District 14. There's only one left. There we go, and we've got what? This is strange looking. We've got Odette Ramos, who's the incumbent, and Renaud DeAndre Brown, candidacy for general election only. Whoa. Okay, I don't know what's going on there, but Odette's the only one running on the Democratic ticket for that. So she's unopposed.
Well,
for the primary anyway, not the general.
Anybody running in District 14, I wish them luck. That's all I can say. I wish them luck. I don't know if there's enough energy in District 14 to outrun Odette Ramos.
Yeah, she'll get in.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I just don't see it. And she's very popular on the council, very popular in the city.
Yeah, she'll get in. Just I'm gonna go out on a limb on that prediction.
All right. So Sean, we've gone through districts 1 through 14. We're hopeful that the voters, that our listeners got to hear, maybe they heard something today. Maybe Pastor Shannon Wright triggered something in them today and said, you know what, I was going to vote for this person, but after hearing it, I think I might want to vote for somebody. I might want to consider another option, you know. And so let's get ready to close out the show. I'm going to give you an opportunity to close out your part, and then I'll come behind you and make sure that we tell people when they can see and hear you at their next opportunity.
Okay, well, it was great being here. I think it was a really good show and informative.
Right.
And I'm giving my little spin on the election, giving you the candidates so you can vet them. My show, I'm the host of the Outsiders podcast. My co-host is Marvin Doc Cheatham. Everybody knows Doc Cheatham. He's my co-host. We usually put the podcast out on Thursday evenings, maybe Friday mornings, because the podcast is taped, but we're very informative, and you will hear things on that podcast. And Will, you're doing a fantastic job here as well. So what happened? I got to say this quickly with the Key Bridge. We talked about it in the first part of the show, and they're working on it. The Outsiders will be covering what's happened with the Key Bridge because we found some very interesting information that people are not hearing. And you will find, and I'm going to give you a little tidbit. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the naming of the bridge once it's built, because Francis Scott Key, oopsie, he owned slaves. He was a slave owner. Now, with what's going on with the woke movement and so on, Black Lives Matter, and changes in names for different monuments and locations are happening, it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm bringing it out here on Baltimore City Live with special delivery, Will Hanna. This is the first you've heard. No one said it. Francis Scott Key owned slaves. Will they name that bridge that's going to be built? And I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic bridge. What will they name it?
Oh, you just sparked my audience up. I'm telling you, right? They sitting there like, oh, wow, okay. That it is a very interesting. That's a very interesting question. I think we had to come back, Sean. We're gonna bring you back. We're gonna have that whole conversation next time we bring you back. To our listeners, this has been the special delivery. I want to thank my guest, Sean Sims. I want to thank Dr. Allison, Shannon Wright, candidate for mayor, and everybody that's running for office. Keep driving your campaigns. Keep working. All you got to do is focus on outworking your opposition. And if you and I'll say this is Will Hanna speaking. I want y'all to just take a look, and I want y'all to understand that even though I share no bias. Oh, what am I holding? I share no bias. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that a rose is still a rose. Thank you. This has been the special delivery with Will Hanna.
Spit it out. Special delivery.
I want that.
Special delivery.
I need that.
Special delivery.
Can I have that?
Special delivery. Special delivery.
I want that.
Special